for you. Baby, the freedom is yours. Yeah, baby, I made it for you. If it come down to the floor is yours. Let me show you how to pull that floor is yours. The 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 floor is yours. Now it's my turn to tell y'all about my big bro Gerard and the podcast crew.
Good evening. Can you hear us, Gregory? You there?
All right. Hello, everyone. It is Thursday night, and welcome to another episode of The Floor is Yours. Hey, if it's Thursday night, you know it's The Floor is Yours night. So we want to thank all of our Floor family for tuning in week after week. We love you. We do this for you, and we wouldn't want to do it without you. So thank you so much. So before we go another further, please tell your mama, tell your brother, tell your sister, tell your baby mama. Hey, the Floor is Yours podcast is on, and we want everyone to enjoy. So you know it's our mission and our purpose every week to bring real and relevant conversations. And so tonight is one of those nights, y'all. Tonight we're going to touch an aspect of life that all of us will be touched by. But you know I can't do it by myself. I got to have the other side of the G unit with me, Mr. Gerard Flex, the producer. Where is in the house? Gerard, say what's up to the people.
And good evening, people. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Looking forward to this great show.
Look forward to it.
Okay, so while we're waiting on Gregory to get in, so as always, we usually have some technical differences, but we're going to move on. So we do have two great guests, Carolyn and her daughter, Olivia. We appreciate you both joining us, but won't we first just take a moment, Carolyn, first, if you will, introduce yourself and tell us what brings you to the show, and then we'll let Olivia do the same.
Hello. Like Gerard said, my name is Carolyn Maldonado. I am the owner and CEO of G180 Swim. We are a swimwear brand with the sole purpose of one day eliminating drowning deaths. Today we're going to talk about our journey of how we came to that sole purpose. And as yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of the day that I lost my son to a drowning death. So we wanted to take this opportunity to just more so focus on our grief journey and to celebrate the fact that my daughter and I got to this milestone just because when we first experienced loss, it was all we could do to wake up and put one foot in front of the other. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to share our journey with as many people as possible, so that in the event that you or somebody has to go through something like this, you'll know that there's hope for tomorrow, and maybe even 10 years from now, So that's why my daughter and I are here to just kind of honor my son Theo's legacy.
Yeah, appreciate it for sure. Miss Olivia.
Hello. Hi. My name is Olivia Nash. I'm the principal model and bookkeeper for G180 Swim. I'm just here to push awareness and push the mission.
Yeah, we appreciate you both for joining us. So we got Gregory back in. I'm going to bring him to the stage and we'll get the conversation going. Gregory, can you hear us, brother? Gregory, can you hear us? we might have to do the show without Greg. Well, I appreciate everybody's patience. But Gregory, one last time, can you hear us? Yeah, we're gonna move through without Greg. I don't know. Maybe he'll catch up with us. But one of the things that Carolyn, you want to make sure that we focus on was grief. What it looked like for you when you first went through it. I know when I talked to you at your home, you talked about it in stages. You was experiencing it, and at one point you didn't even know how to name what you were going through. So if can we start there and just talk about, like, even in the beginning, and forgive me if I'm jumping too far here. I just want to make sure, if you want to talk about the actual incident, we can just get the conversation started. Then we can move to grief, and I'll let you make the decision on how you want to do that.
Yeah, it does make sense to start at the beginning. So it was August 12th, 2016, when my son decided that he was going to leave football practice and go hang out with his friends at our lake. We live in Little Elm, and our local lake is Lake Louisville. So he was going to go hang out with his friends for a little while. And for some reason, he decided that he was going to swim from the shore to the dock with his friends. I guess that was the plan for the group of them. And my son, like I said, he had just left football practice. It was the first day of 2-a-days. And my son just did not know that his body was spent. And so when he got too far out there, he caught a cramp. And from what I'm told is he began to drown, and he began to scream for help. And people did try to help him. But he was drowning the people that were trying to help him because of his strength and the level of struggle that he was going through. So one of the resource officers that was working the lake that day happened to know my son because he worked the high school. And so he heard him, and he understood when he heard my son, the way he heard him, that it was a distress call. Excuse me. And so he called it in, and one of the first officers that arrived was a dive specialist on the dive team back in high school. And so he was able to get within an arm's length of my son before an undercurrent swept my son. And that's how my son drowned.
Yeah.
After, initially, after I realized that my son actually died, which was later that night, I just thought, oh, surely this is too much for me to bear. I'm not going to wake up in the morning.
Mhm.
And so I deliberately went to sleep, just kind of zhuzh myself up a little bit. So in the event that because at the time it was just me and my daughter, I thought, well, if an adult doesn't get here fast enough, I don't want to scare my daughter, So I zhuzhed myself up, and I laid on the pillow, and I thought, I'm just going to lay here as still as possible, so that, because surely I'm not waking up. If she is the one that walks in, it won't be scary. But I did wake up. And so that's when my grief journey really started, was the day I woke up after what had happened at the lake. I had no faculties at all, as far as I didn't have any cognitive awareness outside of the fact that my son was gone and I was still here, and that God must have made some sort of mistake. And then all of a sudden people started showing up at my house, and So then there was like an onset of people in that first week. You just feel overwhelmed because there's just so much going on. And the one thing I was grateful for was that there were so many people there to take care of my daughter, because she had never seen me cry like this.
Mhm.
And so, and I couldn't stop it. I could not. And even if I could have, I decided that I wasn't going to,
Right.
because I had just done the unthinkable, and that was, losing Theo. He was the safest kid you've ever met. And so I never even fathomed.
Right.
And so, yeah, just moving through those first few days, that first week, and then they started telling me, you got to plan a funeral, and so then I kicked back into mom mode, because there's one more thing for me to do for my son,
Mhm.
and that was to send him home, in a grand fashion, and in a way that would honor him
Mhm.
and the life that he lived, because he really was a special individual.
Of course.
And so I just got to work to make sure that he had the best homegoing service that I could possibly give him.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was what it looked like the first week, 2 weeks, for me.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering. And one of the comments said that's a lot of grief to take on like sudden. And I also want to give Olivia the opportunity to share your experience if you want to take a moment and do that.
Okay, for me, I could remember the day for sure. Like my mom said, we found out later that night, and for me personally, it was surreal. I took the route of disbelief and denial, if you will. But at the time, I was 13. Um, yeah, it just didn't feel real. Felt like a dream. Similar to my mom, life, I didn't feel like life was meant to be lived without my brother. It didn't feel like it was possible. So to wake up the next day and days and days and days following, it was just a new journey, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way you frame that, a new journey, is one way to put it. And it's, you go through that grief, then you go immediately, just a few days later, Carolyn, to planning a funeral. And I want to talk about from you both, just hear from you, like, what is it like when you trying to process that level of grief, and other people, his loved ones, your loved ones, friends and family are coming around? Like, how do you manage and balance trying to, I don't know if you felt a sense of responsibility where you need to communicate and be there for others, but how did you manage that?
For me, I did feel a sense of responsibility because I'm Theo's mother.
Hmm.
And some of the stories that people came to me with, like, there was a coach, right? One of his coaches came over and just cried. And, all I could do was just give him a hug, and he was telling me that, the day before, Theo had asked him to pick him up, because his car broke down or something was wrong with his car that I hadn't even known about. And so, he came and picked him up at like 5 a.m. and, took him to practice. And he was just, grateful for that last little bit of time with Theo, that little one-on-one time with him. And he was grateful that he was somebody Theo could call. There was a random guy who worked at the Firestone. Apparently my son found out, I guess in the course of my son, taking care of his car, he was chatting up with this guy and found out he played college football. And my son wanted to play college football.
Hmm.
And apparently, my son would hang out at the Firestone once a week to get football tips from this guy. And this guy was going through a divorce, and like he was a grown man. He was going through a divorce. And he said, Theo just gave me the best advice. He was just so wise beyond his years. And every time I would be in down or like in the dumps about my child or my ex-wife, you know, Theo always knew what to say. And I was like, who are you? And you know, then he explained to me, and then he explained to me what he was going through. And you know, it felt good to know who my son was outside of our purview, not just outside of our house. Like these are things my son never said, you know, because I would have never let him hang out with an adult,
Right.
you know. But he never said, you know, I'm hanging out at the Firestone an hour a week to get football tips from this guy who's going through blah blah blah. It was just, I don't know, just hearing those little stories from everybody, even his friends, like the friends that he hung out with every single day, that knew him for like who he was, which was a prankster, a jokester. You know, he was also the guy. He was just, my son was very loyal, and so his friends just knew, like, if Theo said he was going to do something, it's done. Like there was never any question. If Theo said he's got your back, he had your back, period. Yeah. Even friends that you didn't think he had. You know, some of the kids that are, you know, loners would come by and tell me about their relationship with my son and how just, you know, him being, you know, the popular kid, hanging out with them, just like really, you know, gave them some sense of self-worth and like, you know, just their relationships, you know, that they could tell Theo anything and Theo not judge them, but give them sound advice, you know.
Oh, wow.
So I took on some of the responsibility of just listening to all of those stories. It's painful because I know that version of him. And I thought that was just ours, you know. I thought that was for me and Olivia, but to know that he shared it with the world, you know, his community, even outside of our little, you know, outside of Little Elm, you know, there I heard stories from all over the Metroplex that I just was shocked to hear.
Especially him being so young, right?
He was only 17.
Yeah.
Oh, it did help just to know that the mothering that I did had an impact on him, to the point to where he was able to touch so many people that, you know, that helps my little heart. But
I can imagine.
It was heartbreaking to know that, like, man, there's so many stories out there. And
and I'm sure you haven't heard nearly all of them that are available either. You know, that it's kind of how it goes. So appreciate the audience that's tuning in, and I see the comments and questions are coming in. Keep them coming. We're going to get to it, but the title of this show is Loss Didn't Win, Grief Doesn't Get the Last Word. And the reason why we titled it that way, after talking to you, Carolyn, you wanted to focus on how you can help his legacy is in part is teaching people how to get through grief. And when I talked to you, you wanted to, I think the phrase you used was ask me anything. And just thinking about that, I was like, wow, what a strong stance and a purposeful mindset, if you will, to have, that when you're grieving, ongoing and taking on, you still are thinking, how can I help other people? So The questions are in the comments. We're going to get to them. But before we get to the comments, Olivia, I want to give you a moment too to talk about what your big brother meant to you. And I'm sure you had a similar experience that your mom talked about, where your friends talked about who Theo was to them as well.
Most definitely. To me, my brother was everything and some more. So he, like my mom said, he had a really bright spirit, and I feel like with the people that were coming to her with these stories, it was just a testament to his character, because he genuinely was this way all around, to strangers, to friends, to family. He was a helping hand. He was very reliable. He was someone you could count on. He was just a strong, like, energy, a strong person to be around. When you're around him, you're in great presence. It's always blissful.
Yeah.
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 I don't know. I don't feel like I have the words to describe to what he really amounted to. Like, it was just an experience, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and that's understandable. Yeah. So before we move to the questions, again, we talked about Carolyn wanted to focus in on the grief process, and if you don't mind, just tell us why that's important to you and why you want to lend yourself in that way.
Because it was so hard, and it still can be so difficult to navigate. I know, like, when I first was grieving, I heard from people, "You will be okay." And I did not believe them.
Mm-hmm.
I did not understand what that meant even. I went through so many different things, just emotions, obviously. I went through physical things. At one stage, I thought I was having heart attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to the doctor like several times a week. I thought that's how bad it was. I thought I was really having heart attacks. And they'd hook me up to the EKG, and they'd x-ray me, and they'd do all the things and tell me they can't find anything. And I'm like, no, I know that there's physically something wrong. I can't stop feeling it. Something is happening here. And it's crippling.
Mm-hmm.
And finally somebody told me, one of my physicians, like, she told me, she's like, look, I can prescribe you an antidepressant, but you're not depressed. You're grieving.
Wow.
And she said, if I give you this antidepressant, it will just put you to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It will not fix anything. You will wake up and need more, and you will continue to need more, because you're not depressed. You are grieving, and you have to go through the process. And she referred me to, well, she didn't refer me to a therapist, but she told me, she's like, your best option is to find a therapist that you like, that you can talk this out with, until you get to past this stage of grief. And then, and that's what I ended up doing. And I ended up staying in therapy for probably 5 years, because it was the one place that I had permission to just grieve. I didn't have to do anything else in that office, but I could cry and I could talk.
Yeah.
That's all. I didn't have to be a mom. I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to, make decisions. I didn't have to run this company. That was the one place where I could just mourn Theo.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to understand that it's not an easy process, but it's not something you can avoid. And we've got to start really talking about that and telling people, like, it is what it is, and I'm sorry.
Yes. Wow. That's heavy. That's heavy. Thank you for sharing that. So the comments are coming in. We're going to start jumping to them, and I'll let you both, feel free to jump in and address each question as long as you feel led to. But this one is kind of appropriate based off of what you just shared, and it's from a good friend of mine, Orlana. But she says, "How do you get back to normalcy to be able to work and stay composed in public? And how long did that take? I know you said you were in therapy for 5 years." And also you talked about in those moments when you were in therapy, you didn't have to be a mother or a friend, but there were times when you had to go back to being that. But I will let you address this question, and then Olivia, you can jump in too.
So I don't know that we ever got back to normalcy. We had to change.
Mm-hmm.
We used to be the Three Amigos. People knew me as Theo's mother. Like literally that was my name on the streets. They knew Olivia as Theo's sister. And, that's how they identified her on the street. There goes Theo's sister. Because we were constantly together. So when that stopped, normalcy stopped. But what I was able to rely on was the things that I had practiced prior to. So the things that were normal for me, I went to the gym all the time. So I went to the gym, and sometimes I cried in the gym, and sometimes I scared the people in the class next to me, but I did it because that's what my body knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the things that my body knew how to do. And I made specific decisions. So one of the first decisions that I remember making was I decided that Olivia deserves the same mother that her brother had. And so no matter what happens or how hard it is, I will not give up on that. She's going to get the same mom. So that was the first decision I made. And it looked weird because I would show up to her games, and I showed up every single game. And I would be crying. I would have to sit in a corner somewhere so I don't totally embarrass her. But I did it. I took her to every single practice that she had to go to. She played piano. She did gymnastics. I did not stop that. And it wasn't because I felt like she needed these things. It was because the things that my body knew how to do were comforting to me.
Yeah.
And so I thought maybe it would comfort her to continue the things that her body knows how to do.
That makes sense.
So, we just worked through that. How long did that take? I cried every single day during all of my tasks for the first 2 years.
Wow.
And I'm just being honest. And I told people, it's okay. I'm just grieving, because people would obviously be like, are you okay? Do you need help? And I would just tell them I'm grieving. And that was usually enough for people to say, oh, okay. And then of course people knew me as Theo's mother. So most people knew. And then at work, I went back to work probably within 30 or 40 days. I had to implement some systems because I did travel for work. And so I had to sit down and be honest with my leadership and just tell them, I don't know that I can effectively get on a plane, go where I'm supposed to go, and get back by myself. I need a buddy.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. They assigned me travel partners. And then a year later, my husband started working at my job. That's where we met. And then we were inseparable. We were just like a team. And so he shouldered that burden.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and when it got tough for me, he just let it get tough and did the job. And then whenever I was ready to get back in the game, he let me back in the game. And we didn't even have to talk about it.
Wow.
So I think just finding people that you can trust and just being open and honest with people and telling them like, hey, this is what I need to get through this. Can you accommodate? And most people will.
Yeah.
And how long did it take me to? I would say I probably got to a point where I regained my faculties, maybe about 5 years,
Oh, wow.
6 years.
Yeah.
And where I could fully trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have to, I wasn't always second guessing myself because a lot of the time, I'll be honest, I thought I was crazy.
Really?
I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was losing it because I still could not rationalize the fact that I buried a son.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot. I'm going to try to bring Gregory on here again. Gregory, welcome back, sir. Can you hear us?
Thank you. I can. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, man. Thank you.
Well, I'm so grateful to be able to join this conversation. You guys have said some great things that I think I wanted to highlight, if you don't mind. One of the things you mentioned was that you cried every day for the first 2 years. I think it's important for everybody to hear that there's no timeline for grief. There is not 6 weeks and you should be over it, or 6 months, you should be over it. So for anyone listening right now, I just want them to know that it is okay, that your grieving process is going to take as long as your process takes. And so it may even be longer than 2 years, and that's okay. What we know for sure in psychology, that there are some pains and some hurts that never leave you. You just learn to live with. And I think this is one of those occasions where you never, if you were to meditate or think about it for too long, those emotions could still rise up. And so for anyone that's listening, just know, give yourself grace. Know that you need to cry when you need to cry. And that's okay. Even if it's 10 years from now, even if it's 20 years from now, that's okay. So thank you for sharing that aspect with us.
Yeah. So we got another question right here. We can jump to this one too, Gregory, and then we'll let them both chime in. But this is from Tamika. Appreciate the question, Tamika. She said, as you were processing your grief from losing your son, how did your daughter process her grief of losing a brother? And she's asking about the coping techniques. So I know there's going to be some, bleed over, if you will, from different questions. But how did you, what kind of coping techniques did you learn? I'll let either one of you answer that first.
Okay, I can chime in on this one first. Coping techniques, that's tough. I really don't have any. I wing it every single day. I'm gonna be so honest. And it works for me some days and it doesn't others. And that's just something, like Gregory mentioned, I've learned to live with. Kind of getting into the other question, like of normalcy, as cliche as it sounds, you kind of just have to fake it until you make it. And that was the route that I went. It worked for me. My brother passed August 12th, 2016. Around that time, I'm going into, I think, 8th grade or high school, whatever. It was a pretty big transition for myself at the time. And I had school maybe a week and a half later. I went to school on the first day. I was there. I went to practice. I showed up and I just kind of had to put on this mask and I just showed up. I did it for myself. I did it for my brother. And yep, it just kind of, I don't know. I really don't have any coping mechanisms, honestly.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
I'd love to. Go ahead.
One of the things we do know, when you lose someone so close, at a young age, the grieving escalates as you get older, and not to scare, but just to prepare. That will, as you get older, you begin to recognize your mother's journey. You begin to relate to it when you become a mother and when you have children. For those who are listening, if you lost someone at a very young age, when you walk in the shoes of the person that walk that path, it's going to resonate differently also. So Olivia, I say, stay close to mom. You two stay close so that you two can walk with each other through this process, because it will be with you for the rest of your life, but it doesn't have to determine the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah,
1,000%. You hit that on the head. Like I said earlier, at first when everything happened, I didn't register it as a kid. I was just it. I could not. That my capacity wasn't. I just couldn't handle that weight at the time. But as I grow older, now it really sets in. Now I really understand. Loss, grief, and everything like that. And like you said, there's no timeline on it. 10 years in, and I have rainy days, I have good days, I have bad days. Every day is a journey, genuinely.
wow. Yeah, and I know, Carolyn, you was gonna inject on the coping.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of piggyback off Olivia. And to be honest, I don't have any solid coping mechanisms, but I will say that I did learn that there were things that helped me take my emotions from here and put it somewhere else. Like the paintings behind me.
Mhm.
I call them my grief paintings because during that first or second year, I found that I could paint and then I could get through the rest of my day without crying. And so some days where I needed to, where I had something significant to do, maybe I needed to travel, I'd paint, right? I'm not an artist, as clearly. But I will say that it wasn't coping, but it did help to allow me to like release something. And as far as the first half of that question, I want to just kind of be very transparent. My daughter did not seem to be processing grief, like she said, when it first happened. And I took advantage of that. I did not force her. I did not try to probe. I did not. When she told me how she felt, I remember specifically, she told me, it's just like he went to college early. It's fine, Mom. He just went a year early. So, and I didn't respond to it. I just, I didn't tell her the truth of the matter. I didn't explain. I mean, she was old enough to know, and I've raised her in church. So she's aware of, heaven and earth. She's aware of, the wages of sin are death and what death looks like and what it means. And to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I know she's aware of those things, right? That's how she was raised. But when she pretended like he went to college, it was, I don't want to say it was a relief for me. It was a way for me not to have to deal with her grief and my grief at the same time, at the same level, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And so I let that happen. And today her grief is very different. I see her grief when it pops up, and it's very significant. It's almost the same level mine was back in the day. And so it's almost like it was a delayed reaction because of her cognitive ability. She was a 13-year-old child, and now she's growing into a woman and trying to figure out what that looks like without a brother and without her trusted confidant. Like he had all the answers, when you don't want to listen to your mom, you go to your brother, and she's she's like really missing that right now. So
Wow.
I try to be there for her and kind of mirror the things that I learned early on in the process about myself. But I also just give her grace to just say whatever she needs to say, do whatever she needs to do. And I just encourage her to keep moving through it, just keep walking.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we got a couple more, and then we'll let Gregory go to the next point. Tiffany, appreciate the comment. She says, although you will never get over the loss, how do you process daily? And I know you both touched on that, but I just want to give you a chance if you want to add to that, just your daily journey.
Daily, I stay focused on the mission. I think when Theo drowned, I could not understand. Like I literally couldn't understand because my son was very well prepared for the water. He's an athlete. He had all the tools. Like he had swim lessons. He knew what to do. We even practiced for drowning. Like my kids will tell you, like one of the first lessons of drowning is don't panic. I mean, the first lessons of swimming is don't panic ever. And he did.
Wow.
So I couldn't understand. So as I set out to like try to figure out why my son drowned, I learned that buoyancy is the only thing that will prevent a drowning death from occurring. And so on this journey of building this company, the things that I do daily to, stay focused on that mission, to one day make sure that this doesn't happen. This doesn't have to happen to anybody else's kid, that's it. It's helpful. It gives me a purpose. And it gives me a way to honor Theo.
Yeah. Wow. So one on Gregory, and then we'll let you go after this. But there's several that talks about the faith. And in some variants, it's like, how do you keep your faith? Did you ever get angry at God? Did you lose your faith? Did you lose the ability to even define what faith is supposed to look like? So I'll let both of you, if you want, take a moment to talk about how did you maintain your faith and what it looked like during the grieving process?
Well, for me personally, my faith was the only thing I felt like that did keep me sheltered the way I was sheltered. God was the only thing that could give me a piece of solace in the fact of the matter that I had lost my brother, because like my mom said, when you're absent from the body, you are with the Lord. And I knew that true to my core, to my soul. Even at 13 years old, I knew this is how it's supposed to be, or better. I knew in my heart of hearts that God's will was coming to fruition and that there was no need to worry when he's involved. There's nothing to question.
Wow. It's powerful.
It is. Yeah.
For me, it was slightly different. I had the same understanding, but I was hurt. I was hurt that God would have me raise this child for 17 years, go through all the things that we went through as a family just for this to happen. And so I told God, I was like, I'm not happy, but I trust you. And that's all I have for right now. That's all I have. I'm just going to trust you.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at still. I trust him.
They certainly only need a mustard seed of faith.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Gregory, I'll let you. I know Gregory talks a lot about that, about how important faith is to the walk, right? That sustains you when you've done all you can do. And I just think about how, to Livia's point, that's the only thing you have sometimes.
That's true. Faith is oftentimes the only thing that you have to get you through the darkness. In relationship with faith, we also have our family and friends that are a good community around us to help us get through those dark moments. Did your relationship with any of your family and friends change after the loss?
Um, I will say I don't want to say it changed necessarily. Obviously, I do have more friends that are more people came into my life as a result of what happened, and I like those are like sisterhoods now, right? Um, and I have learned to trust people more. I I will be honest, I can be a prideful woman, one who doesn't know how to ask for help. Um, and I had to learn how to lean on people.
Mhm.
Um, as far as my family relationships, I think I had to learn how to meet people where they were at because um, a lot of my family just was not able to see me grieve like that,
Mm.
right? Because I'm the baby, or I'm their baby. I'm not the baby, but I'm their baby. And so for them to have to watch me cry and just, um, you know, not be my normal self, it was hard for them. And so instead of, you know, saying, oh, well, I need this from you, I also had to give grace because they needed to see me healthy and happy again, you know? Um, and so it's a balance. It's so sometimes you could get mad at your family for not showing up the way you think they should have shown up, but also they're walking a delicate line of like not causing any more harm to your broken heart, you know? And so I don't think it necessarily changed. I think it just made me more aware of, having to meet people where they're at, um, and allowing them to meet me where I'm at, and also to be more open to asking for help and
Right.
saying the things that I actually need.
Mhm.
So I don't know how Olivia feels though. How do you?
I feel like on a family aspect, it didn't change too much, like relation wise for me. The only thing I could say that did change was my outlook on relationships and the importance of them because I've
Mhm.
always been relatively family oriented, but after losing someone, it just gives you a different outlook on life as a whole and like a
Mhm.
different level of appreciation for the time spent, for the time anything, like everything, a conversation, a just showing up, presence. It just
Yeah.
gave a different ring to me, I feel like. Now, on the friendship aspect, I feel like it made me like a fragile object to people in my life that, you know, people don't know how to handle you when you're going through grief or when something major happens in your life. And that's what it felt like I was being handled. Like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because no one knows how to approach those types of things, but you can feel the pressure, even though people are tiptoeing around you, you
Mhm.
can feel the pressure. And it's like, I think with time, people will get more comfortable, or like my mom said, they kind of know how to meet you where you're at. But it was definitely like a culture shock in school, going back to school, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like you can hear the whispers, like, "Oh, that's Theo's sister," like right there. Like, "Oh wow, did you hear
Wow.
the?" Yeah, and it's like I understand. It not coming from a place of like disrespect or anything. It's just yeah, being in that limelight, I guess.
I like the word that
Yeah.
y'all both use, fragile. And I want to jump to this one real quick before we let Gregory jump on. But this is a good one. It's from a cousin, Ann. She says, for the mother or parent listening tonight who is in the very early stages of losing a child and feels like they will never be okay again, what would you want them to know? Early stages, like it seems like impossible. You shared Carolyn, how you felt that way, especially that first night, what would you share with them?
I would share with them, may God give you peace. That's one of the gifts that God exclusively grants to us.
Mm.
And it's not something that you earn, but it's something he gives you because he loves you. So may God give you peace if you're in that situation.
Yeah.
The next thing I would tell you is you are doing your very best, and everybody around you is so proud of you for surviving the worst thing you'll ever have to.
Yeah.
So
I
wherever
honestly
you're
would
at,
add
you're
to
okay.
that too.
Okay.
I'm not a parent or anything, but just on a realistic side of things, there's never going to be a point where you get back to being who you were before the tragedy. You're never going to be that same person. So I think it's unrealistic for people to say like, oh, it'll get better, or one day you'll find yourself or something. This new journey is about finding the version of you that is okay with what happened, not going back as if it didn't happen, not going, it's just being the best version of you without that person.
Wow, that's powerful.
That is powerful. That's one of the concepts of grief counseling too. When a person goes to grief counseling, the purpose isn't to pretend it didn't happen. It's to become a person that can live knowing what happened and how to incorporate that in their life. So that's very, very profound. With grief, there's also this component. I don't know if either of you two experience this, called grief fatigue, where you grieve so much you get almost angry with the sadness that you're carrying, that you look for ways to excite yourself. Some people go through and they start taking risks, maybe skydiving or motorbiking or motorcycling. Did any of you experience that, where it's like, I just want to get away from the grief, so let me do something that excites me, salsa dancing or something like that?
I'll say for me, definitely. Like, being as I didn't really process or acknowledge it in the early stages, like now fast forward, we're 7, 8 years in, and it's like, oh my gosh, what is this gonna end? When like now I really have to face the truth. He's not at college, he's not coming back. There is no normal, there's no old normal, so for me, I guess I would say it kind of happened like in my early years of college, where
Yeah.
everybody is like looking for something new. Everyone is trying exciting things. So definitely my
Yeah.
mindset in maybe 8 years after, and I was exhausted. I went into a very deep depression. It was a roller coaster of things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I have like a crazy thing that I've done though, like the
Yeah.
most exciting thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But people do experience moments where they just kind of want to leave the sadness for a moment, have a little fun, and even if you return to it, you just want to like escape for a little bit. And we call that grief fatigue, and it's also a very natural, normal part of it.
Yeah.
I also do have I have experienced that. So I have a tradition where every year on the anniversary of my son's passing, I go to a spa, like, or a spa retreat, and I make it a point that it's somebody else's responsibility to take care of me.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how
Yeah.
I can't be wild and crazy because, I've got, Olivia to think of, and now I'm married and, have a business. So, I have to, save my wild and crazy days for my 80s.
I think those are
But
great ways to kind of alleviate some of the stress. I did want to mention one thing, and I want you guys to kind of just for a moment congratulate yourselves because you mentioned we talked about coping mechanisms earlier, and both of you so you kind of were just like pushing through and getting through it day by day. But I want to highlight that you two ladies are actually doing the number one recommended coping mechanism that psychology would give you. And what that is to perform an activity or invest your interest and energy in something that honors the person that you lost. And if you were ever going to give advice, or if I was ever going to give advice to someone of what can help move you forward, it won't alleviate the pain, but what can help you move forward, is put your energy in something that honors the person that you have lost. And what you two have done and are doing right now, I think is great, bringing more education to buoyancy, how to prevent this from happening for other people. This is clearly a passion project for you, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. Was there a moment or something that maybe triggered you where you said to yourself, "I'm going to turn this pain into purpose"?
Um, so it was a dream, um, a repeated dream. Um, and I kept telling God, I was like, "You got the wrong one. Trust me." This, I don't know. The first thing about creating flotation devices or getting people to wear them, or um, how to communicate to people that the only thing that will prevent drowning death from occurring is buoyancy. And God just would not leave me alone. When I say
Mm,
he wouldn't leave me alone. And I kept having that dream. And so I finally just, was talking to my Nana, and was telling her about this dream. And she was like, "You've got this, you can do it." And I was like, "I don't want to." And she's like, "Well, I think it's been assigned, so you should just get it done." And yeah, um, after she passed, um, her words just stuck with me, and I just decided to start doing it. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it was done. Like
yeah,
all of a sudden, I had an invention. I had a utility patent from the USPTO. I had a brand. I
Mhm.
have
right.
a swimwear. Like all the things I never fathomed.
That's
Um,
wonderful.
so
That's
it was a dream.
wonderful.
Yeah.
With, go ahead, Gerard. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and we're going to get to that more later on in the show, but just want to hit this one question. Like, this is heavy, and it's really geared for Olivia, but it's from a good friend Tanisha. She says, when your mother was grieving and you was a child, did you ever feel invisible? And if so, how did you get over that pain and realize that you were loved also?
Wow, I would say just slightly in the very beginning. Obviously, like it's a very tough thing for you to have to lose a child, raise a child, lose a child, bury a child. Um, I saw how it was impacting my parents firsthand, and if I'm being honest, we talked about responsibility earlier on, one of the first few topics, and I felt like I carried the responsibility of taking a back seat because that needed the attention that it needed.
Mm.
The tragedy, the loss, the grief, it it was bigger than myself, and I knew that at a young age, and that's why I say like God gave me the strength to find solace in the situation firsthand. I think that was purposeful because he knew that my parents would need that extra attention, and I just wanted to be able to hold them up, be able to be a shoulder, be able to take care of them if needed. There were times where like I just had to um not take care of myself because my parents were always there for me and very hands-on, despite their loss and our loss. It just was, I really don't have the words to explain it, but I knew that that was a responsibility that I would have to carry for the time being. And how did I get past that? I believe that was the second portion to that question.
It was.
Um,
How do you get past that, knowing that you are important and still loved?
well, the way that they showed up for my brother, I already knew that in my heart. Before he passed, they instilled that in us very early on. That we were their prized possessions, the apple of their eye, whatever you call it. And then also having to show up for myself, it wasn't the main priority, I would say. Like I wasn't. That's just my take on it. Obviously, my mom might have a different take because I can be very, like needy when it comes to attention. But I just felt like there's a time and a place. I never questioned whether I was important, whether I was loved, whether I was shown up for. Like my mom said, even during her strongest day or even during her weakest days, she showed up for me. Basketball games, she's boohoo crying.
Wow.
But still wearing her number 10. So like, there go my baby. Wiping her tears, that type of thing. Yeah.
Wow. Carolyn, you want to add to that?
The one thing I try to do, and I always have tried to do this, is make sure that I tell my kids I love you from the start of their day to the time they walk out if they walk out of the house without me, and at the end of their day. I try to make sure to tell them because I grew up with the parents that you thugged it out. They punched you in the chest and let you know they loved you.
Right.
So I wanted my kids to hear it. And so I think that was super helpful when tragedy hit, because it was a habit. And so even when Olivia felt like she was probably either over-parented because her brother died or under-parented because her brother died, because she had both reactions.
That is a great point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But at least she knew at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, she knew that I loved her.
Gregory, I can't imagine that over-parenting part, or how, I shouldn't say how I can't imagine, but I can imagine the need to feel like you're there and you're not failing or missing something.
Yeah. And in addition to that, not only do you want to care for your child's needs, but children are a huge source of comfort. I mean, for all of us that are parents, there's nothing sweeter than a hug or a kiss or your child laughing or smiling. Those are the things that really energize you. And so a lot of times you can actually delay the grieving process by overindulging yourself in the child that is remaining, instead of just spending some quiet time alone in your bathroom, in your bedroom, crying it out, getting through the process, because you want to show up as healthy. And that puts the child in a very peculiar situation where they are now like your source of joy. They have now become your water, your oxygen. And we don't want to put that stress on our child. So it is important to have those moments to grieve so that the child can be the child and you can be the healthy parent. So overparenting is also a very natural reaction too.
So I'm gonna get to this one from another family cousin, Ronnie. He says, "Hello, Carolyn, Olivia. I'm Ronnie. I've stood in mass religious crowds and still felt completely alone. I've had the laying on of hands from many preachers at once and couldn't feel a thing." He said, "I've sat through 3 and 4 hour sermons and still couldn't hear God. Sitting here tonight, either I'm looking at an AI automated podcast or the two of you truly have something special with God. Your strength, your contentment is amazing. When the tragedy and loss of your son and brother stripped away all the religious noise and left you with raw pain, what is actually holding you together? I must know." So that's
Sir,
the question.
don't know.
You don't know?
Sir, like I said, I trust God, and that's still my position today. I'm gonna trust Him. I don't understand any of this. I don't like it. I want my son back,
Of course. Of course.
but I trust God,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna keep doing it.
Olivia.
I would have to say the same for me. My faith is carrying everything. And outside of that, to know my brother is to know genuine happiness and safety and security. And I feel like so grateful and blessed to have been in that presence and to be graced with the life that he had and sharing that with him, that I feel so fulfilled. Honestly, like that is just there are certain people that grace your life, and whether they're in it today, tomorrow, or never again, you can only be grateful.
That's good.
That's
That's
right.
good. Hey, Gregory, I think you'll appreciate this question right here. I know you always talk about the importance of Christ and a counselor, right? But
Yeah.
Ivory, appreciate the comment. She said, Ivory said you mentioned therapy helped you through your grief. What did counseling give you that faith alone couldn't? And how did the two eventually work together in your healing?
Mm.
Well, for me, it gave me a safe place to grieve.
Mm.
I needed a place to be able to say all the things that were on my heart, even the crazy things. And that man sat there and just chuckled. Like when I would say ridiculous things, he let me say them, you know. And he let me know that as crazy as what I might have been saying it's not actually crazy. Like it's just these are real raw emotions that you're allowed to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a safe space. And I don't know. I don't think and I don't want to say religion doesn't give you that or faith doesn't give you that because I be getting raw with God too. So I'm very comfortable in
But
my
you gotta be
relationship.
real. There's some things that you can't say to God with a good conscience and be like, yeah, I said
No,
that. You gotta hold yourself.
if you can do it, you can say it. Because
I
I
don't know.
mean, the Lord knows you seriously,
That's true.
wholly
That's
and
true.
completely. So if that's how I look at it anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
I'm sure you can't say any words that God hasn't already heard before. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing. Therapy is a tool and prayer is a weapon. And so if you're going to build a house, you need the right tools. So therapy is important. It can be beneficial to the constructing of forming the new normal. So therapy is a tool. Prayer is a weapon. When you feel attacked and those invisible emotions come up, you need to know how to combat those. You fight back with prayer. So both of them can work together. Therapy is a tool and prayer is a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
beautifully put.
Yeah, I like this one from Amisha, and it's kind of around what we talked about earlier about how your faith may have wavered. But I like the ending of it specifically. She said, "Were there times where you stayed away from the church or even church people?" And just to add on to that, where Ivory said, where people may have had good intentions and actually made you grieve harder. And I know that can happen sometimes, even in
Hmm.
religious
Hmm.
circles.
Absolutely. For me, yes.
Yeah.
I definitely took some time away from church. Not necessarily because I didn't like church folks. I've always not necessarily vibed with church folk, just like people in the church, you know? I'm not like brother and sister type person, or I don't do the church politics. And I know I should. My mom's actually a pastor. So, um, um, but whenever I left Little Elm to go off and I guess incubate, um, I had a hard time getting back into church um, because I needed something more substantial, and I wasn't finding it right off the rip, and so it was easier to give up.
Yeah.
And then so that was why I ended up giving into just my grief and my attitude towards church. But I'm not sure. Olivia, I don't know if she ever went back to church after high school. No?
Not consistently, like every now and again. I'm not departing or departed from the church, if you will, but grief gave me a different insight into the church scene and what it really means to have faith and what it really means to have a relationship with God. And for me, it just looked different after the passing of my brother. I felt like um no one could get me closer to God than myself. And not to say that I can lead anybody or even myself to that degree, but it just felt more personable, it felt more genuine, it felt more like
Relational?
self-paced. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's heavy. That's heavy. I'm gonna go through a couple more of these comments. Some of them are comments from Vita. Appreciate the comment. She says, "I have never lost a child, so I don't know how you feel or felt. However, I suffered the loss of my mother, sister 30 days later, while going through a divorce of 30 years. It is definitely not a timeline for grief. Every day restarts the journey." Wow, that's heavy there. Every day restarts the journey, at least for me. Journaling and creating grief rituals was very healthy. My 3 prompts I wrote about daily was what I miss, what am I learning, and what I'm becoming. Sending you prayers and hugs and love. I can hear the pain in your voice. And she talked about that journaling. And there's a couple other comments and questions about journaling. How, if you're doing that, and how did they help you, if that is something that you did?
I definitely did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Really quick. I definitely did. It helped me come to terms with the reality and to vocalize what it is that I was going through, what I felt. Even when it was a bunch of nothing. Like sometimes you just journal just to get it out on paper, just to see it out and process. It helps you process better. For me personally.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a journaler, but the art definitely was a form of I want to. It said what I wanted it to say every time I put a brush to the canvas, and I'm not sure how that works. I don't know. I don't understand it, so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Gregory. So we got about 12 more minutes. I mean, I could stay as long as I need to. I don't want to keep y'all longer than what y'all expected, though. But we can keep going, or we can get ready to wrap it up and can bring you back later. I want to give Gregory an opportunity to kind of put words and understanding into some of the things that we talked about.
I think this is an important conversation to have because everyone will encounter some form of grief. There's no way out of life without the loss of someone. And so I do want us to end on a high note. I got a question I want to ask you too. Now, a long life does not equate to a powerful life. You know the significance of a life, unfortunately, a lot of times after after the person has left. So, Carolyn, you gave Theo the gift of life. Share with us what was the gift that Leo gave you.
Um, so every time I think about that, there's a phrase I put on his tombstone. It says, "My son, her brother, our protector," and that's what he gave us. Like his presence as who he was to us was truly it was truly something to behold. It was special. We're not the perfect family, but we are perfect in this family together. Like we loved each other, and we still do. Um, he gave he gave us love to the point to where we're able to grieve him to this day. And it feels like we're connecting with him the same way when we were loving him, when we were at our happiest. It's the inverse sometimes, but the love connection is still there. And the one thing I'm most proud about my son is the way that he protected us. From the time he was an itty bitty baby, when he could walk, if he thought there was any sort of danger, he jumped in front of it. There was one time his sister was in the middle of the street and there was a bus coming, and he jumped in front of the bus, and I was like scared to death. And that's just instinctually what he was. He was a protector. And to the day he died, I promise you. And so
Yeah,
I still feel that today.
that's
Awesome.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Olivia, if you could send your brother a text message, what would it say?
Probably call him a knucklehead. Tell him I'm the favorite, and I would really just give him his props, because at that age, being 13 and 4 years, or he was 4 years my senior, it was a lot of bickering back and forth, a lot of tit for tat, just stuff that now feels like immense love, but in the moment felt very, I don't know, it felt like, ooh, I could just like do this right here, get him on the head.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Life, of course, we know is fragile and it's way too short. It is lived forward, but it's understood backwards. And if there is any one particular reason for the purpose of life, one of the many is to leave this earth better than you found it. And from what we have talked about today, we can say that Leo did that. He left
Yeah.
this world better than he found it. And so we're grateful for this conversation that you have allowed us to have with you. Thank you so much for your bravery, your courage, your strength to stand here, to stand strong in honor of this fine young man. One of the things that I'm taking away from this conversation is that even when I cannot understand God, I can still trust God. And so I hope that anyone who's dealing with grief right now takes that away also, that sometimes things occur that don't have a rhyme or reason in our mind, but there's always a bigger purpose, a higher calling that God has, and that doesn't alleviate the pain, but at least it gives us a reason to keep going forward, to find out what was that thing, and to live life on purpose, to honor the people that we've lost, and to live in honor of them, making the world better because we knew them. And so I just want to say thank you again for being with us tonight. It's been an honor.
And then we're going to let both of you speak. But I just want to blow through a couple of these comments. And one, Gregory, in particular, because you just talk about when your faith wavers, how trust sometimes has to kick in. This is from Shay. She said, thanks for sharing your story, what helped you continue in faith, even when it doesn't seem that it's working. And I think that's relevant to what you just said, that you just got to trust that.
We got to walk by faith and not by sight.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let a couple other ones I want to jump to right here. Where is it? Sorry, bear with me. It's one from a good friend who lost her husband, and I'm lost. Okay, let me go to a couple of them real quick before we let you guys go. Oh, this is from Tamika. She said, give yourself grace. Grief does not have a time limit, which, you all talked about that.
Very
Casey,
true.
Casey was on here Tuesday with a show where we were talking about protecting the youth, but great wise woman right there. But she said, thank you for your wisdom. I thought grief would get a little bit better as we age. And that's to Gregory's comment earlier that it will change as you grow and mature and understand better. So that was a response to that right there. I'm let both of you talk about this real quick if you want to. How did you navigate the process of discovering who you are now while holding space for the person you were before? So it sounds like what I've been saying, you don't want to lose everything about yourself, but you know that as you're growing, there needs to be maybe a new version of you. Like, were you accepting who you were becoming and not holding a level of guilt, thinking that you're forgetting, your connection to Theo?
For me, I had to let my old self go. I had to. She was a different woman.
Mhm.
Her light shone differently. Um, she was, like I said, she was the mother, an active mother to Theo and Olivia. I expected grandkids. I expected all types of things. I expected a daughter-in-law. I expected, just so I had to let her go. I had to release her and understand that we're trusting God and what He's got for me moving forward has nothing to do with my expectations. And so it's time for me to grow up into who God is asking me to grow up into. So that's,
Wow.
I'm very different and I just had to accept it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And from Charlotte, I know y'all both know Charlotte.
Mhm.
For tuning in, she said, how do you distinguish between protecting yourself from a painful place and allowing grief to keep you from living? Is there a point where you feel you want to face the lake, or do you believe you don't have to? Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, I try. I will say this. I still want to protect myself every single time I see that place.
Wow.
I want to run. I have forced myself to be present, and to show up where I feel like, okay, this is a big enough deal. You can put on your big girl panties and show up. But I also give myself the grace to respond however I'm going to respond. So it can get ugly. I'm going to be honest.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. Olivia?
For me, I don't feel like there is a single place where I would not be protected from. So it's not, I don't struggle in the same way. Actually, from the very beginning, I felt like more comfort at the lake than anything. I feel that's where I'm the closest and the most connected to Theo at his last place. And honestly, like sometimes more connected than like going to a grave site. Like it just feels so personal. It feels I feel no need for protection from the places that took place. I think it's bigger than that.
Wow. It kind of goes into this comment from Barbara. She said, do you see or believe that there are pockets of your son's presence in your day or moments of your life where he's there?
Absolutely. They're even in dreams,
Really?
like sometimes I could do something and he'll come to me in my dream and I'll know it's like him just saying, "Hey ma, I'm proud. Like I saw what you did." Or even sometimes when I'm the most worried.
Yeah.
I honestly I don't know if there's if it's a mother's instinct thing, but sometimes when your kids, when they're little, they can come and stand at your bedside and not say anything, but you wake up because you feel their presence.
Yeah.
There are freaky incidents like that where I'd be like,
yeah,
I
understand.
So I don't know how to interpret that, but
but you know what you're feeling, right? Yeah. Jason, appreciate the comment. He said it's beautiful that we can be honest with God and tell him our raw emotions during the hard times. His plan is always best. And you talked about that earlier, Carolyn. Like, hey, if you can feel it and do it, you can say it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't be scared now.
Yeah. Carlico was saying earlier, she said people really don't know what to say when they're trying to comfort you or be there for you. And yeah, that can be tough. That can be really tough.
Yeah, the best thing to do is just to be present, to not necessarily try to articulate your feelings. One of the worst things you can say is, I know how you feel. You know, I lost my mother, I lost my brother, or I lost whoever. But you didn't lose the person they lost. You don't know what it's like to hear that person laugh, to get a hug from that person, to hear that person's voice. And so you just want to say, I am here. Whatever I can do, I'm here. Is generally the best thing to say. But any kind of comparisons or trying to relate, you can't relate. You can't compare. This is a its own unique experience. So let's honor that in the person that is grieving.
Amen. And this one right here from the mayor I hear of Curtis. He says, we love y'all and always got you back. And I know that y'all know that that's more than words, right?
Yep, we know it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Y'all want to respond to that before we move on? Y'all good?
I mean, that's my forever mayor, so we already know.
Yes.
Forever.
You.
So,
Yeah. And I think I got to at least one comment from everybody. There's a ton. And I'm just asking if time permits, you know, it's not a must. If you feel led to go back to the show and to the comments and respond as you feel led. There's quite a few other unanswered questions where people just want to pick your brain and get pointers on how they deal with their own grief. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But before we go, the other thing, we talked briefly about your invention. So I'll let you take a moment, you both, if you want to talk about what you got going with G180 Swim.
Yeah. So, like I said, G180 Swim is a swimwear brand with the sole purpose of one day eliminating drowning death. And so we design and develop swimwear that has buoyancy or safety already built in. And so we also design for athletes to ensure that, you know, they can enjoy the water the way that they normally would. But there's an element of safety that's available to them on their person at all times. So our first invention was a life jacket. It's displayed behind Olivia. And you can kind of see it's very sleek, very fun to wear, very functional. But most importantly, it's fashionable. So people will actually wear it. And yeah, you just, as you can see, we let the bladder out for you. But if it's typically inside the vest and it's very sleek. And if you get into a distressed situation, you just pull the lanyard, the bladder will inflate and then pop out. And, you know, you can either swim to safety or wait to be rescued. We're currently working on a women's line that's inherently buoyant. And so the padding will be inside the swimwear. And so it'll keep you afloat for those people who aren't as comfortable in the water as maybe a regular swimmer is. Mm-hmm. We also have a wetsuit line. We call it the Royal Tribute. And that's just because, you know, there's a white space in the market for people of color. And, you know, and so we have designed a very specific wetsuit to rep your set, you know, and it also has some features built in for comfort as well as safety. So, yeah, that's who we are. And lastly, I'll say this, G180 Swim is built on legacy. So everything that we do, including our name, has a purpose and a meaning behind it. So if you see something that we've put out, there is a hidden meaning in it. And if you would choose to dig into our logo and maybe expand it a little bit, you'll see a hidden message from me that I just want the world to know. And it says, I miss my son in the waves. So if that's a message I can get out to the world, I want everybody to know I miss Theo. So yeah. I don't know if Olivia has anything to add on the story of G180, but
I feel like you hit a lot of the marks. We are just bridging safety, fashionable fun, and bringing awareness and attention to the youth who don't really care about PPE when it comes to water safety, when it comes to a lot of things, you know? So we're just trying to be the difference, be the change, be well, how do you say, like,
The
just
person we needed.
yeah, exactly. The person that we feel like Theo would have gravitated towards if the resources were available, because there's this type of stuff happens.
Yeah.
This is a very common tragedy that happens in people's households, and everyone has questions, and my mom took her grief and she found the answers.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I love it.
That's a lot.
I love it.
A lot of people sending prayers and words of comfort to you both. We got some people that's even interested in your product. So we're going to make sure that we get your website included into the comments and share it so that people can reach out and go check out your website too. You know, you got a lot of great things there about safety. The word that you taught me, well, that I knew about, but you just brought more awareness to buoyancy. You know, I probably had said that before you, maybe once in my whole life. So now, make sure I keep that in my vocabulary. So, but this is where we want to make sure we give you both the opportunity to give us some words of encouragement, parting thoughts, final thoughts, anything that you want to leave the people with.
Well, I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for having us on and for allowing us to celebrate Theo's legacy in this way and to celebrate our milestone of even, you know, putting one foot in front of the other for the past 10 years and figuring things out. And I think it's important, especially for moms. I'm just going to speak to the moms because, you know, that's who I relate to the most. And I know what it's like to have a child, to raise them, and then to have to part, you know. I think that if you have to go through this journey, and I pray you don't, but if you do, please appreciate yourself for every single day that you wake up and you make a new effort. It doesn't have to be spectacular, right? But when you look back over the years, I promise you will recognize the spectacular effort that it took for you to go even one more day without your baby. So
That's great.
show yourself some grace and love yourself and celebrate yourself for all the hard things that you're going to do.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Love
What
it.
about you, Olivia? You want to go give us some important thoughts?
For me, just speaking on grief, meet grief halfway. And I think the best way to do that is to really appreciate the community and the people that you have in your life and their presence while you have it. Give people their flowers and make sure that if things go left, like there's nothing that you would have weighing you down. Like that's the best way. That's the best thing. Cause like Jeffrey, I believe, said earlier, it's gonna happen. You're gonna meet grief one day. It's gonna knock on the door. It's gonna knock on the door, and just be ready to face that with grace and faith, and keep your people close, and keep them loved, appreciated, all of that.
Yeah. I think I speak on behalf of Gregory when I say, Olivia, you're wise beyond your years. I don't know if this incident caused it or you just, you know, chip off the old block with your mom, you know, but we appreciate your transparency and likewise, Carolyn, just allowing us to be a part of something so meaningful and so important. Also, I think this comment from the Soul Experience, when our followers on YouTube speaks for us all when they say your strength through the stage of grief is certainly remarkable and inspiring, you know, and we thank you for it.
Yep.
Gregory.
Yes, sir. It's been a great conversation, hasn't it?
Totally. Yes,
You know,
sir.
it is definitely a testament that gratitude and grief can both live in the same heart. And so, thank you for that. But to everyone that's watching, we thank you so much for tuning in for another week. We hope that this episode was a blessing to you. Remember, this is the Floor is Yours podcast. So we mean it. That's the way we say it. This is your podcast. So whatever topic, whatever issue you want us to address, please let us know. Keep those comments coming because all of us may be sneaking back into the comments and responding. So if it's a week later or a month later, you got a comment, please let us know, and we just might give you a little shout out. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a pleasure. We wish this family comfort, and we pray that God guides them to greater and greater levels and greater deeds. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. On behalf of all of us, we love you. Peace, love, hair grease. We out, y'all.
This one here really do it for you. Baby, the key is yours. Yeah, baby, I'm in love with you.